Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Level Playing Field podcast, where sports, money, and madness all collide. This week, we got chaos on every level. We got chaos on every level. Brian Kelly is fired at LSU. The FBI is cracking down on the NBA for gambling and ties to the mafia. And now the NCAA says, what the heck? Let's let athletes and coaches and staff bet on pro sports because why not?
Well,
Dennis,
they're going to be betting
where do we start?
on college sports. They're going to be betting on college sports. The kids are going to be. They already are, Andrew. There's all kind of reports. Listen, in basketball, there's all kind of reports of last year. Now, I know, okay, and I can't reveal my sources, but last year alone in the college ranks, at halftime, there are guys not coming out for the second half. And they're making false reports that they had a sprained ankle or they had an injury or something came up. Is it the NIL money that's putting so much pressure on them? Or is it because the guys are betting on the game and they're not coming out for the second half, so all of their cronies and all their roommates and buddies on campus are out betting the game, making boatloads of money, violating the law, committing fraud, and that's what the NBA's been doing for years. And everyone knows it. And look, on one of our last shows, I gave you a history of organized crime and gambling. This is a month ago before this all broke. I mean, the powers that be know, Andrew, the powers that be know 100% that the gambling is addictive. Gambling is a problem. It's similar. I mean, look, World War II, right? My father-in-law, God rest his soul, was given all kinds of cigarettes when he was going to war, right? They come back off the boat, they're being given away. They used to have all kinds of people walking around giving away cigarettes. Why? The tobacco industry knew that nicotine was addictive, but they weren't revealing it to the public. What they were doing is they had a bunch of doctors write up reports that, hey, nicotine isn't addictive, that you could smoke cigarettes and you're going to be fine. Well, lo and behold, they were lying to millions and millions and millions of Americans who we lost. A lot of military men we lost to cancer. My dad, my father-in-law, both World War II vets, both dead to cancer. You understand? And this is a similar track, Andrew, that's going on right now. You brought it up, okay? You're talking about gambling now. Gambling, the NBA, the NFL, the NCAA, all of them, okay? It's addictive. There's a problem with it. Hello. Mm-hmm. Now, it took a long time with the cigarettes because people were dying. And all of a sudden, they go and they do the test and go, no, the tobacco companies were lying. They gave away these cigarettes and addicted all of these men and women. And there's billions and billions of dollars that in lawsuits that were settled. And guess what? They were no longer able to advertise. That's Andrew and I's biggest problem. Look, they got to take the garbage off the television. They're coming in, for God's sake. All of them, the NBA, the NCAA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, all of them are coming into our houses. Okay, for there to be a sports book, the official sports book of the NFL, the official sports book of the NBA, the official sports book of NHL, the official sports book of Major League Baseball. It's a sin. It's a crime. They're coming in and giving away these. Tell them about the specials that they're running right now, Andrew. All kind of crazy specials that they're running.
That's the crazy part. So I'm listening to some podcasts and everything, and that's the deal right now. Is if you bet $10 on whatever DraftKings, FanDuel, bet $10 and you lose your bet, automatically you get $1,500 in free online bets in their little ecosystem. Now, you got to read the fine print. You're not able to actually take that money home. You got to bet that all the way through. So you can't just walk out the door with $1,500. But that's the deal. They want to get you hooked. And if you lose that,
that's your free cigarettes. That's your free cigarette. That's your free cigarette. So here's some free cigarettes. Yep. And everyone knows, every one of those sports franchises and even these idiots at the NCAA. Look, We're communicating with McCormick. He's a senator here. And one of McCormick's boy, DeMarco, he played football with me at the University of Pittsburgh. We're communicating with these guys. It is sick. It is criminal that they're coming into our households. We're watching these games, and here's our kids, our sons, our daughters sitting there. I mean, and they're addicting them. Now, how many different things can kids get addicted to, right? So they got this legalized marijuana. I saw a statistic, 40% of high school kids are using marijuana, are testing marijuana. Now, listen, even worse, like 8% or 7 or 8% of eighth graders. Now, what else are they doing? They're drinking alcohol all over professional sports and the NCAA. It goes back to poison. It's evil. It's corrupt. It's poison, and they're poisoning our youth. They have enough devils coming at them that it needs to stop. Advertising, gambling, alcohol, just like cigarettes. They banned cigarettes when they knew it was killing people. The Marlboro Man. All you guys my age and women my age, how could you forget the Marlboro Man? He was the coolest cat out there, and they spent tens of millions of dollars promoting him that everybody would just go and smoke. And somebody brought up a point, I believe it was you, Andrew, about where they put the advertising for cigarettes now when you go into the grocery stores. Tell them about that. Where did they put it?
Well, I know that was a big thing back in the 90s and early 2000s when I was growing up. I know for a fact that was a strategy by Big Tobacco. You put the ads on the bottom of the door, so when you're walking in, adults are walking into the store, they're looking like what they're going to go and get, but you're holding your kid's hand walking in, and that kid is looking directly at Marlboro, Newport, all the cigarette ads. They're all on the bottom of the door. Nobody ever looks at it, but they're there, and that's what's directly on the kid's level, and they're just grooming you to be the next generation of customers. But that's it. I mean, and remember, we're talking about vices that have been around for a while, gambling, all that. But this is the thing that's never been around before. These phones, that is what allows kids it exacerbates the whole thing. It takes it to a whole nother level because now you can't walk away from it. You used to be able to go to school, come home, and you can separate yourself from the peer pressure. It never ends now. Now you're on your phone 24/7. People are able to find you, reach out. You're online. It never ends. So, and that's also with the gambling.
Absolutely, Andrew. But what also it does is husbands have their own cell phones now. Wives have their own cell phones right now. Kids, look, I live off the grid. I have a landline. My wife and I, we share a landline. Everybody that calls that number, I see who called it. You understand? Same as my wife. It has nothing to do with trust. I love my wife. We've been married for 41 years. And I just got a quick show this and get this off my lap. That is the 10 Commandments that we got when we got married 41 years ago. One of my wife's family members bought this for us. And the first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me. The second, thou shalt not worship any graven image. Hello. What are these professional franchises? What have they become? They own so many of our citizens, right? So
they own
Sunday.
Now they own Sunday.
Oh my God, and Sunday on top of that, like you're saying. So what happens is on Sundays, rather than guys going to church and going and read, and by the way, everybody should have the 10 Commandments in their house. If everybody had the 10 Commandments posted in their house, it would be a great America. We don't need no presidents. We don't need no congressmen. We don't need no senators. We need him. So get those 10 Commandments out, pull them out, or go buy one and put it on your wall. You understand? And we need to follow the 10 Commandments because right now what's happening on Sundays is we're worshiping the almighty football team. We're worshiping the almighty hockey team. We're worshiping the almighty NBA team. We're worshiping the almighty baseball team, right? And people are going out and gambling and becoming addicted to it, getting back to being addicted. I was proud of the University of Pittsburgh's football coach. He made a comment let's go to the NCAA and what they just done. So he made a comment. I'm not a big fan of this guy at the University of Pittsburgh, but he made a comment that He's totally against the NCAA authorizing gambling, right? Totally against it. So what he said
Mhm.
was it's addictive. Gambling is addictive, no different than smoking, drinking, and drugs. Ooh, man, I tell you, he's on to something. He's on to something. So he's a pretty bad coach,
Yeah,
but he
I'm not a
seems to
huge fan of Narduzzi either,
maybe
but
be a
he's
pretty
but
good
he's
guy.
on it.
You know,
Yeah.
you
So
know.
let's
So
talk about
so
what
I
what
would tell
actually
you.
came down here. So with the NCAA, they just released this last week. So they as of today, we're recording this on the 28th of October. So as of today, student athletes cannot gamble on professional sports. You cannot have a DraftKings account. You cannot go to the casino. You cannot go to Vegas and bet on, the NFL games this weekend.
But they
That
are.
changes on Saturday, November 1st. November 1st, they illegally will be able to do all of that. And you ask the question, why? You ask the question, why are they doing this? Why, who said this was a good idea? What makes this a good idea? Exactly.
Look.
So what
Your eyes,
this
Andrew.
reeks, this, yep, this reeks of lobbying. This reeks of millions and billions of dollars getting thrown around in all the right hands. And basically, what it comes down to is the fact that they realize that they have a subsect of student athletes now that are getting paid millions of dollars, and they don't have access to those millions of dollars.
Oh,
And
they
that's
do
basically what it comes
indirectly.
down to,
Indirectly,
indirectly.
trust me.
But
Their
now,
friends, their
exactly.
friends on campus. Their friends on campus are betting for them. I mean, don't let
Right.
anybody fool you. Just look at the
But why
NBA.
do that?
Their
But why
winners.
even bother? If you can throw a couple million in somebody's pocket and say, well, let's get this rule changed so I can have access directly to that money, why not? So now the whole purpose of this, right, is to say, okay, these kids, coaches, and staff can all gamble on professional sports. Great. Okay. So now what you're telling me is you got an 18-year-old kid who's now making millions of dollars, a couple $100,000 straight out of high school, never had that much money in his life before. Sure, I'll bet a few bucks on Monday Night Football. Awesome. I can bake this. That becomes a habit. Habits become part of your personality. And the next thing you know is you have a gambling addiction. Now, that's great because it's legal and there's nothing wrong with that. But what happens when that kid who's making a couple $100,000, couple $1,000,000 has a gambling habit, a gambling addiction, and then is, well, I want to play professional sports. I want to go to the league. I want to play in the NFL, MLB, NBA. So I have to stop. So you're telling me that we're going to groom these kids with millions of dollars and say, yeah, it's fine. It's totally legal. Go gamble, do whatever. That's great. Completely legal. It's fine. But the second you get drafted into the league, you got to stop. In what world is that going to happen? In what world are we just going to oh, you're right. You know what? Gambling isn't that big of an addiction. People stop all the time. In what world? In what world? So it is, I mean, this is ripe for like 3-4 years from now to just have, oh my gosh, so many scandals and people betting, and you can't stop. These kids can't stop. And it's gonna, I mean, like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you, this is going to happen in the near future. But let's be honest, it already is happening because the NBA just gets cracked down with the FBI for prop bets getting fixed. Now there's ties in with the mafia for poker games out in Vegas and everything. And oh my gosh, it's insane. So it's
Andrew,
just like
Andrew,
in the same week.
you can
Talk
bet.
about
You can look. You can bet underground. Okay, this is what we talked about on our last show. You could bet underground all day in every city in America. Okay, the organize. Look,
Mhm.
call it what you want to call it. Me personally, there's all kind of organized crime syndicates in America. Okay, there's
Mhm.
gambling organized crime syndicates. There's legal organized crime syndicates. I could go right down the line. Okay, there's a bunch of organized
Mhm.
crime syndicates. There's
Mhm.
lawyers that are robbing the cities and the taxpayers and doing bogus contracts in all of our cities. Okay, there's gangsters. There's people taking bets. There's gangsters dealing drugs. There's drug syndicates. I mean, that's what our country's in the middle of right
Mhm.
now. Are their big pushes to get rid of these
Mhm.
drug syndicates that are killing our kids on this fentanyl garbage and other drugs. But look, we need to straighten out this gambling. This is our topic. This is what Andrew and we want it to be a level playing field. We want all of the kids, and this is going to trickle down to high school. I mean, you're 18 years old when you're in high school, your senior year. I was 17, but I was young. My mom was broke and poor. She started me early when I was 4 years old rather than 5, but I was fine at 17. But most of the guys are 18 when they go to high school. So now you can what? You can smoke dope when you're 18. So all right, 20 states have legalized dope. What other dope? They legalized gambling dope in 2018. That 30 states you can legally bet on sports, right? So now you take it down to the NCAA saying it's okay for our athletes to bet on professional sports. Oh, it's going to go into high school now. So how many epidemics do our kids need? I mean, we had these scumbags, these scumbags from Connecticut do this drug, oxycodone, and they paid off some federal drug agent who came and worked for them, and they specifically labeled it non-addictive, right? And they were these doctors all over the country were writing prescriptions to oxycodone, mostly the kids. Do you understand? And young adults. And we had an epidemic death. We have fentanyl, and you just go. We have kids smoking dope. I heard a statistic that 40% of crashes, they just randomly checked out 40% of fatalities. There's a pretty good sampling, like 300 people. 40% of those 300 accidents that resulted in death were smoking dope. So the point that we're trying to make is that just because you can't find the cancer in the gambling, just because you can't find or see the cancer is being portrayed in mental illness, Andrew. We have an epidemic of mental illness, and we have an epidemic of suicide right now. Okay, I remember when they opened up that garbage casino in Lehigh County, there was a kid from a local, I think he was at Lehigh. I believe he was a Lehigh student. The kid went and used his mom's credit card or dad's credit card, lost a couple G's. He drove his car off the parking deck to his death. I mean, what is it that the NCAA, the idiots that they are, and I've been calling for them to be disbanded, and I'm going to continue to call for them being disbanded. But we need the help. We need the help of the coaches. That was great that the Pitt football coach stood up and made that statement. We need more coaches standing up and making those statements, getting into the firing of Kelly. I'm so happy he got fired. The last show we taped, I said, I cheer for Kelly to get fired every week. You know what I'm saying to you? He's a scumbag. He left the kids in Cincinnati stranded. He goes and he's making, he's probably making a couple $100,000 a year at Cincinnati. So his agent calls up, hey, he's having a great year. The Notre Dame job comes open, and all of a sudden he gets on a plane. Don't even say bye to the kids at Cincinnati. And he goes and takes a job at Notre Dame. And then he does the same thing to the Notre Dame kids to go down to LSU. But here's the thing. Those $1 million contracts started with Jackie Sherrill. He recruited me with a bunch of other Division I schools, LSU, Michigan, Penn, you name them. But Jackie Sherrill had an assistant coach by the name of Joe Moore. Great guy. My mom loved him. And, I went and signed with Jackie Sherrill. Well, a year later, we win the Sugar Bowl. We beat Herschel Walker. Dan Marino we beat number 1 Georgia. We were number 2 in the country that year. If we had playoffs, we would have won. But we would have won the national championship. But anyway, which I'm against too. But anyway, Jackie Sherrill comes back. He signs $1 million contract with Texas A&M. He leaves Pitt, goes to Texas A&M. First coach in sports history in America to make $1 million was Jackie Sherrill. But boy, it went haywire from there. You understand? You had Saban. Saban was making like $1 million, $2 million a year at Alabama, and all of a sudden all of a sudden, they want to put a big package deal together for him because of the LSU coach, because the nuts at LSU gave Kelly $10 million. That's where it all exploded. $1 million is plenty for a coach, right? I mean, $1 million is plenty for anybody playing any sports, doing anything. You hear what I'm saying to you? So now this whole explosion, in particular in athletics, was because of these coaches. So Kelly makes these nuts at LSU who are crazy about football. And guess what? The most awesome place in the country, one of the most awesome places in the country to play. My brother George played down there. They recruited me. Penn State. Wow. Two of the most awesome colleges. I think they're probably the top two. Michigan and Ohio State are right there too. But boy, they fell apart, didn't they? They were both talking about having national championship aspirations, right? And here, boy, they both fell apart because why? Because the almighty dollar. Do you understand? The almighty dollar. Look, the coach at LSU should still be Argeron. He should have never got fired. Okay? The guy wins a national championship, has a rough year because of a hurricane, and these nuts down there at LSU, they're reaching out to Kelly. And Kelly's negotiating with them while he's still coaching at Notre Dame. Oh, 10 mil? Yeah, I'm in. Well, that is what set this explosion off. And what makes me sick about it, Andrew, what makes me sick about it is that now we got, 11 coaches fired, making sick money. If they weren't making so much money, and the pressure with these kids all being paid, that's what the epidemic firing of coaches is because of the NCAA and their pathetic policies with the NIL and permitting these coaches to make this money. So this weekend, I was sitting with my wife. I'm watching this awesome world championship men's gymnastic. Wow. They have these freaks from America. They have this American gymnast. What the heck's his name? He's a brother. He's a black cat. But bro, he was so talented. He won a gold medal in the world championships in gymnastics. But guess what? There's very few colleges have men's gymnastics. Now you want to talk about athletes. Oh my word, this guy was like Superman. He was built like Superman. He was so athletic. He could fly like Superman, this guy. And these tremendous gymnastics, they can't even get a scholarship because why? They dropped all of the men's gymnastics across the country. Very few teams have men's gymnastics anymore. And these guys are tremendous athletes, Andrew. It was crazy just watching them. I had so much fun just watching this guy because I'm like, wow, I can't believe he's doing that. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? It was like, wow, this guy, wow. And then to think that these coaches are making what you said that they paid out the Penn State coach like $40-50 million, right? And Penn State does have
$49 million. Yeah.
I don't even think Penn State has a men's gymnastic team.
They do. So Penn State does. Penn State does. A lot of the Big Ten teams do. The SEC not as much. I don't know about the what used to be the Pac-12 teams out west. That's where it gets a little strange. And we also kind of talked about that when we talked about the revenue sharing a few weeks ago. When you break up, revenue sharing is going to come into these conferences and say, okay, each team's going to get, each school, is going to get 20 million, X number of dollars to divvy up between your programs. But what happens when one program has 16 sports and the other one has 32? Well, how do you equally divvy up the same amount of money? Because some schools are different than others. It's not a level playing field on so many different levels. The other thing is that when you're talking about these coaches now, this is either 10 or 11 now that are fired this season. This is by far the most coaches fired in Division I, high-end Division I football ever. The past record was 7, and that was back in 2022. So now we're already past that. We're coming in on doubling that almost, because now that Kelly's gone, I heard this week now the next hot topic, the next hot seat is Texas. Sarkisian, he might be feeling some heat now out there in Texas. Also, Mike Norvell down in Florida State. There's this offseason, there are going to be massive jobs, like once in a lifetime jobs that don't come open. They're all open because they were
But
all ranked in the top 10. Everyone had this expectation and everybody flopped. And it's not that you can have and that's where I was kind of talking about this a few weeks ago, where everyone, including the athletic directors and the fans, we all kind of have to readjust our expectations of what these teams are going to be, because with the transfer portal, right, kids can transfer every single year. You're not able to stockpile talent. You're not able to, hold a program together the way you were. So that means rosters are thinner. That means if your quarterback goes down, the number 2 guy, he might not be a 5-star quarterback. That 5-star quarterback doesn't want to sit. He doesn't want to wait behind another guy because I can go get paid to play over here. And when I play really good, then I'll get the big time job. It's this crazy world. So everyone kind of has to readjust their expectations and say, okay, you might go 10 wins, 10, 11 wins, 4 or 5 years in a row, but like you got to bake in like the chances of just having like a stinker of a season, just like in the NFL. Sometimes you make bad moves, bring in bad free agents, and you stink. But in the NFL, you get that, high round draft pick and you can kind of fix things. So things have changed so much. The dust has to settle and we have to figure out what the future of this sport looks like, because currently what it looks like is nothing what we had expected or what we know in the past. It's a whole new atmosphere.
Here's the thing, Andrew. You're right on. You're dead on.
Mm-hmm.
But the athletic directors, you mentioned the athletic directors. I think the athletic directors should be just as liable as the head coaches. Okay.
Oh, 100%.
If they're bringing,
100%.
if they're signing these guys to $6, $7, $8 million contracts, and they're really nobodies. They're really nobodies, and that money, again, my main goal is to get all this NIL money and to get the money that these coaches are being paid. And let's get men's gymnastics at every college in the country. Yeah. Let's get men's volleyball at every college in America. You understand?
And that was always the argument. That was always the argument, right? Like how, we can't afford it. We're a small Southern school. We can't afford to have, all these different teams. Stop. Everybody just let's go over that.
Let's go over that. So let's say a wrestling team, for example, which wrestling got brutalized by Title IX, right? So let's take wrestling. So wrestling, you got 10 wrestlers. That's the scholarship limit. You got 10 weight classes. You get 10 full scholarships. That's how wrestling works, right? So 10 full scholarships times 40, 50,000 a year, right? To go to what does it cost to go to Penn State for a year? What does it cost to go to Pitt? 40, 50 G's. So let's say that's $500,000, right? And then they pay their coach $250,000, right? So they got $750,000 for a wrestling team. Now, how much is a volleyball team? Probably less, because I think they got 7 or 8 guys they give scholarships to. All they need is 5 or 6 that actually play. So let's say they give 6 scholarships in volleyball. Right, so that's another $300,000 with the coach, $200,000. So that's $1 million to have men's volleyball and men's wrestling, and then let's throw in gymnastics, 4 or 5 gymnastics. Let's throw in another $250,000 with the coach, $1.5 million to have every school in the country, all these big schools, to have a men's volleyball team, a men's gymnastics team, and a men's wrestling team. Well, then let's skip over. Let's do some women. Okay, some women's sports that have fallen apart. Right. So the same would apply. To have a women's lacrosse team, to have a women's softball team, to have a women's. So let's say that's another. We throw a women's volleyball team. So throw on three women's sports and 3 men's sports, $3 million. You got 6 more sports. But remember, those sports generate revenues. Wrestling's generating revenues. Volleyball's generating revenues. You hear what I'm saying here? Gymnastics,
and let's
50-50.
And it's let's make it very clear here. When like 2 individuals are talking about the money and like, like $3 million, $6 million, like that's a lot of money. It's not. When we're talking,
they're paying
like
the coaches
last week, we're talking
$7-8 million,
but we're talking about an influx of 2 billion. $2 billion
potentially.
coming in
But
from the private equity. It's crazy.
but but,
This is
but here
we're
but
talking
here's
peanuts.
but Andrew, here's the thing though, Andrew. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
peanuts. But what I'm just trying to substantiate Kelly, right, and the Penn State coach, uh, and these other
Yeah.
coaches that are getting fired and these huge payouts that they're giving. When I think about this tremendous
Yeah.
athlete who was a who was a men's gymnast, okay, and then you look across the board of
Hmm.
all these 60 million youth competing in America, I see a future that needs to be
Hmm.
funded by the NIL money and not given some bust out quarterback at the University of
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. I can't forget his name because his name's Holstein. $1.7 million the
Hmm.
University of Pittsburgh paid this kid to be a quarterback, and he's sitting on the bench. And here's the beauty of it: some young Pennsylvania kid, some young freshman stands up, hits on a downswing, right? This guy's
Hmm.
on a 9-game losing streak that he beat anybody. He beat two guppy teams in the beginning of the year. Couldn't even beat West Virginia, the Pitt football coach. So they get rid of this 1.7 million, and this is why I'm going in a circle here. But I want you all to hear me. They got to
Hmm.
recruit the kids in the state of Pennsylvania, okay? And look at Ohio. They're
Hmm.
recruiting Ohio kids. You got Ohio State and Cincinnati, really, man, really doing great. And that should be the same thing in the state of
Hmm.
Pennsylvania. Penn State and Pitt and Temple. We have so much talent in this state, and let the kid at the University of Pittsburgh be a tribute to what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
He's a freshman. No one really recruited him, but okay, they gave him a chance.
So
This coach, their coach at
I
Pitt,
just had
like
this
he was
idea.
doing him a favor. So the kid's 4-0 right
Hmm.
now, Andrew. But the point I'm trying to make, each
Hmm.
state's got tremendous athletes. Okay, these coaches need to get
Hmm.
out and recruit, and listen, and that's something that the Penn State coach had a good talent. And he was doing a good job recruiting
Hmm.
locally until this whole NIL starts.
Yeah.
And he brings in 3 wide
Hmm.
receivers, which we talked about, from 3 different schools,
Hmm.
rather than using his young guys and bringing them up. So look at the
Yep.
disruption. They fired a guy, and look what's happening now. They lost again. They're in last place.
Yep.
Who would ever think that a team that had the caliber of running for a national championship is in last place in the Big Ten? Is in last place. So
And
so
then
so what?
and their
What's
next
that
two
telling us?
games
And
are
I
Ohio
think,
State and Indiana.
well, look,
It's not
I,
good.
I think, I think, I think that the athletic director at Penn State should be fired also. Okay, because he bought into this too. And for him to sit
Yeah.
around like he's innocent of it, he's not innocent of it. Okay, he
Well, I don't know
participated
if he
in it.
deserves to be. I don't know if he
They
deserves to
all
be
should get
fired
fired.
yet.
Come on, Andrew.
Well,
Come
I
on,
think
Andrew.
he made the problem. No, he made the problem. He's got to dig himself out of the hole. So when he got hired, he brought in the expectations with that. And this is I love this analogy is there's nothing wrong with being the smartest guy in the room if you're the smartest guy in the room. But don't pretend because you'll get found out really quick. I remember when the Eagles Howie Roseman, this is before he went on his little hot streak in the draft and everything now, and he can do no wrong. But Howie passed on Justin Jefferson. This is like maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago now. He passed on Justin Jefferson, picked up Jalen Reagor from TCU. And I remember sitting there at the time watching the draft, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like Justin Jefferson just like tore up college football. He was at LSU, like he was a great player. Like he's going to be a star in the NFL. Well, he is. But I'm sitting there. I'm like, all right, listen, man. If you know something that nobody else knows, and you want to pick this kid from TCU, and you're like, this is my guy. I did my homework. I know what's coming. This is my guy. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can't be wrong because then all the pressure's coming on you. If there's a layup, take the layup. Don't shoot the 3-pointer. But now, and I always say it, so don't be the smartest guy in the room if you're not the smartest guy in the room. So Pat Kraft now is sitting there as Penn State's AD. He fired James Franklin. James is a walking, talking 10-win season, except for this year, obviously. So if you're guaranteed 10 wins, you better bring someone in here who can recruit at the same level or better, who can win at the same level or better. Because if we start losing, you lose to Ohio State every year and Michigan. Listen, they're already ranked number 1 and 2 every single other year. So that's just the way things are. But you start losing to like Indiana now, you start losing to UCLA to a Purdue, Northwestern, you're not going to last long. So he not only said he's the smartest guy in the room by firing James, he put the pressure squarely on him. I got and Penn State, jobs like Penn State, there's been 3 coaches in the last 80 years. So this isn't a job that comes up every 5 years. This is a job that someone gets and stays in. And hey, make the right choice. That's it. If you're the smartest guy in the room, be the smartest guy in the room. That's the only thing I have to say.
Well, the first and foremost, let me just go back over that guy from the Eagles. He don't know look. He couldn't pick a winner for all the tea in China, man. The guy's a dork.
How he's doing all right now. How he's doing all right.
Let me say something to you. I differ. All of those guys, they never played football themselves. They have no idea what they're doing. And the football coaches should be controlling who they bring in and who they don't bring in. You understand? Not some dork up in the hierarchy because he's part of the ownership group and they know him and their friends and all that other. Come on, bro.
That's the hard part, though, now, because now that I agreed with you totally. I agreed with you as far as college football goes in the past, but now you got money coming in. I was listening to something the other day, and they're like, do we need to colleges, not Penn State, but do colleges need to think about the way they run their organizations with the same outlook as a professional sports team? Do they need to bring in a GM that can put together teams? And the football coach focuses on being a football coach. So a Belichick or some of these guys that do the GM and the coaching in the NFL, that's hard. And you put a lot of pressure on yourself. So I don't know. It's just another conversation that's got to be had.
Listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if Franklin...
Well, it's already broken. It wasn't broken, they fixed it, and now the whole thing broke. That's it.
Listen, that's a great point, Andrew. I agree with you.
It's broke. We're swimming in a soup full of parts and everything. There's my gosh. There's a piston sitting on the front seat. This thing's busted.
Listen, man. Listen, it has totally crashed. And again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I would say to Penn State, I would say to LSU, both of them recruited me. I have the utmost respect for both places, but their decision making from those who don't play football or never played football before, the athletic directors at LSU and at Penn State is disastrous. Okay, they're idiots in my opinion. You have Argeron at LSU. The guy is a man's man, a player's man. You just look what he did.
Love Coach L.
I mean, he comes in there when Alabama. No one can beat Alabama, right? I mean, nobody can beat Alabama. Georgia squeaked one out. I think Clemson squeaked one out, but LSU comes in there, man, with this Yankee, and boy, they win a national championship, and then the following year they have a bad storm, they have a hurricane. Okay, they got off to a slow start, but the guy won like 5. My brother's telling me he won like 5 or 6 of his last games. They fired a guy to bring in Kelly. Well, they got what they deserved. Okay, and it cost them 40. Well, they got to pay his contract. What was that guy's contract? What did they pay him out, Andrew? What did they pay that guy out, Kelly?
I don't know.
How much money did they pay him out?
I don't know the exact number. I don't know the exact number. I think it was 50. It was in the 40-50 range. I think I saw 53, but I don't. So
let's talk about that.
Too much.
Let's talk about that. So you got the Penn State and you got LSU, right? It wasn't broken. They just won a national championship at LSU 2 years before. And Penn State just played in the national championship. They were in the semifinals, a game away from playing for a national championship. So it's not broken. But they made some coaching changes. They brought this dork in by the name of Gut Too Slow. That's what as a defensive coordinator, he left Albany. I know the guy. But all of his teammates, when he played at Penn State, called him Gut Too Slow. His name's Gattuso. He's the defensive coordinator they hired, the idiots. And they made some changes. I'm sure they gave him a boatload of money too to come in and be a defensive coordinator, former player at Penn State. But they erred this year. There were some mistakes that this guy was making, and look when you're. I gotta say, elite.
I just got a text. I just got an ESPN notification. This is real time right here. 10 firings equal $168 million. The
What do you make
breakdown
that?
of money owed to 10 recently fired FBA coaches, Brian Kelly's huge haul, Jay Norvell, smaller totals. $168 million are being paid out for fired coaches.
Well, and
There
they
you
should
go.
fire every athletic director,
There
and
you
they
go.
should fire the NCAA. That's
There you go.
$168 million. That's $168 million that should go to our kids. That's what the
And
alumni
that's
want, ultimately.
so
Do you understand,
now,
Andrew?
so this is, I was going to say this earlier. So let's say, call me crazy here. Let's say the NCAA, which I believe is a nonprofit organization,
It is.
let's
That's the
say,
killer.
let's,
That's the
so
killer.
let's say that in a perfect world, they set it up so that somehow you have, listen, I understand we live in a world where the kids are going to get paid now. I understand we live in a world
I don't
where there's a
necessarily believe
tremendous
that.
amount of money. There's a tremendous amount of money coming in,
I don't
and we
believe
got
that.
to do something with it.
I hope not. I
What
hope
if
not.
we do
But
something good
just to
with it?
interrupt you, I hope they hire more coaches and give those
Well, that's
60
what I'm saying.
million youth more
Why don't
scholarships
we
with
do
the money.
something good with it?
Okay?
Why don't we do something good with it? Why doesn't the NCAA say, you know what? We have a really bad PR problem right now, like historically bad. Why don't we take $100 million, $200 million, and influx it into youth sports and say, okay, here is a pathway, especially for underprivileged kids, for smaller schools, for rural schools who can't, like, they don't have the funding, they don't have the state funding, the federal funding, they don't have anything, right? Why don't they put that money forward? And it doesn't have to be all athletics; it can be partially athletics. That's what it is. But like, hey, you can fill up academic, you can build academic buildings to host your student athletes while they're in high school. Give them better opportunities to get higher grades and get into a better college, which allows, just like, I don't know, help the wheel turn. Instead of just like log jamming the whole thing, why don't we help the wheel, help the development of youth sports, high school sports, and with that, you kind of just, I don't know, create an environment that helps everybody, because you already have a tremendous amount of money and you're literally burning it per this. If you have 108, if you have $168 million as a collective to burn, because that's what it is, they're literally burning it. They're firing someone to say, go home, here's a check. If you have that much money, you can stop and say, you know what, let's pivot. Let's pivot and kind of, make some different decisions.
Absolutely. LSU doesn't have a wrestling. They used to have my brother wrestled at LSU. They had a super team. They had
Do they
national
not have a
champs,
wrestling
all
team anymore?
champions. They don't. They don't. No, the whole Southeastern Conference, with the exception of Missouri. Missouri is the only Southeastern Conference team that has a wrestling that
Really?
has a
Huh.
wrestling team. But here's the thing though. Gymnastics too. They don't have no men's gymnastics.
Yeah. Mm.
They dropped. They have LSU. They got a big time. They have a big time gymnastics team. But
Hmm.
here's the sin of it. Here's the sin of it. That $100+ million. I done the math earlier. You just add six. You add six sports, three male, three female. You're looking at somewhere about $1.5 million to $3 million to add the scholarships and to add the coaches, right? But if you look
Hmm.
at how many kids that is, that's a tremendous amount of kids that you're opening up opportunities for. And that's where this whole coaching from Jackie Sherrill, all right, to Kelly.
Hmm.
I know them both.
Yep.
All right. And Jackie, I went when he got retired, when they done a Hall of Fame event for him. I went. They gave me free tickets for my wife and I. We went. I probably wouldn't have paid. You know what I'm saying to you? Because I'm still a little bit pissed off at the guy and look for leaving and looking
Hmm.
and looking at what happened and the absurdity that has occurred since he made that first $1 million. You understand that guys are
Hmm.
coaching and LSU and all these universities are getting hurt by it because they sign these stupid contracts. And that goes all the way up to the president of the universities. They're in charge of that. They got to oversee this.
Yep.
And just for them to
Yep.
turn a blind eye and give a guy $50 million, they should get fired too. It should go all the way up to
Well,
the
that's
top. You know,
that's
look,
another
look, when,
interesting
when,
point.
when you're dishing out the alumni money and you're shorting the
Hmm.
students, you're shorting the athletes that are on campus. It's a sin. and you need to
Yep.
be held accountable. That's from the athletic director up to the president of each school. Just don't fire the coaches. And I think firing the Penn State coach was an error. Kelly, I'm applauding them firing Kelly. He
Yeah.
deserved it. But the point of the matter is the point of the matter is that what it does, it causes disruption. Look at how North Carolina fell apart with what they fired their coach. Oh, they're talking to Belichick, and I think Belichick is a scumbag for a lot of other reasons. And getting back to Belichick was doing gambling ads, and even the Mannings. I know the Mannings. I've met those guys. They're good cats. They were doing gambling ads for the NFL, for God's sake. So any of those guys, they're all on my blacklist. I can't stand them. Okay, and what they're doing is they're addicting the kids. Them standing there going, yeah, oh, some ad and running ads for these guys. They don't even know what they're doing, but they're participating in addicting young kids because of your legitimacy. You're letting these scumbag organized crime. Okay, and trust me, ultimately, let me tell you how it works, Andrew. So you got these books. They take bets. Remember, in our gambling show, I said the whole goal is to get 100,000 on Penn State and 100,000 on Pitt if they're playing. So you're going to guarantee just off that transaction make $10,000 that day. Plus then all the garbage, the sucker bets with the parlays and the teasers and all the props, all sucker bets. So that's the goal. Whenever you have an over and it's a big amount, they call the organized crime guys. They call them, right? They off it. It's called an off bet. You understand? So for any of these so-called legitimate sports books that are sponsored by the NFL or the NBA, and the FBI should listen to this. I hope they listen to they know this. I'm speaking the same language to them, but the average fan doesn't understand that. So the whole gambling, remember the scripture, the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. Man, this is just a love of money. It's a corrupt sport. It's a minus. No one wins on the other end. And then they off the bets is tied into the underworld, bro. The whole thing is tied into the underworld, man. Trust me, I've been there.
Well,
okay,
now,
so the point,
if you can imagine, if you can imagine, we've talked for 45 minutes and we buried the lead that the NBA just got shook down by the FBI this week. Leading right into your point. Continue. Like, I can't believe we've gone this far and haven't even brought it up. It's insane.
But I want to bring this one point up to you. I was watching that Charles Barkley scumbag. It's crazy how God directs me to things. So I'm listening to Barkley and O'Neal, and there's another NBA player. They were having a conversation on one of the stations. I don't know what station it was. And the one player was saying exactly what we're talking about, that the players are addicted to gambling. That's why they're participating in these. They're making 20, 30 million a year. Why are they doing something to make $100,000 or $200,000? You understand? They're getting caught up in the addiction of the gambling just to see it win or lose, and they have their cronies out doing runs. And Charles Barkley goes, no, he's a scumbag. I sat with that guy, hung out with him, smoked a cigar with him one time. I wanted to punch him in the mouth till I got done. He's filthy mouth, just a dirty guy. I got nothing good to say about Charles Barkley. Okay? And listen, if he ever wants to come and see me, he can come and see me anytime. I'll put him on his head. He's a punk to me. All those guys are a bunch of punks. And he's saying, no, listen, he's arguing with the guy. He can't fix, it's impossible to fix a basketball game. So rather than trying to acknowledge that there's a problem that needs to be fixed, do you understand? NBA players are gambling and are addicted to gambling. The kids are addicted to gambling. So Charles, he's a pig. I played blackjack with him a couple times, and we hung out together. But that guy's betting. He's playing blackjack, betting 10,000 a hand. Charles Barkley, 10,000 a hand. He's playing, right? I'm at the same table with him. I'm ashamed of myself that I was at that table. You understand? And God forgive me for it. But the point of the matter is he is trying to legitimize that there's no way that an NBA player was fixing a game because it's too complicated for one guy to fix a game. Bullshit.
Yeah,
Bullshit. And
that's
the
yeah, no,
other player was being truthful. He's like, look, guys get addicted to things, and he's addicted to gambling on sports. So he's participating in the gambling, and it proves his point. But they were making an argument back and forth, Andrew, about it. But the fact that this is occurring, and it's occurring on a regular basis, the main purpose of this show today is for us. We compared it to nicotine, and we compared it to the giving away to our men and women in our country, and they addicted them all to cigarettes, so they banned it from advertising. So today, if somebody wants to smoke a cigarette, they can go smoke a cigarette. They get addicted to it, which is a sin, but it's not on television. It's not when we're sitting there watching a game with our wife and our kids. It's not splashing into our face, and they're not giving away the house to addict the kids all the way from high school up to the senior citizens that are sitting in senior care homes. I mean, there's senior care homes all over the country, and they're looking for something to do, and now they have phones too, those guys. So now we have senior citizens sitting there going, "Oh, okay, I have $100,000 or $200,000 that I saved up for myself. That's my children's inheritance." Are you hearing me, Andrew? That's my children. I've heard stories like this. I've heard nightmare stories. You understand? So it's not just happening to the kids. They're getting the senior citizens now. So the senior citizens are emptying out their accounts, and that they worked for, and that's their children and their grandchildren's inheritance, Andrew, that is being stolen from them by these con man criminals that the NFL and the NFL players have endorsed and have let them say the official sports book of. Look, if people want to gamble, I still haven't. I'm going to have my daughter, or I'm going to write a letter to the bishop. But there has to be something done about anybody legitimizing what's going on, because it's criminal and it's corrupt and it's a bunch of evil people doing it, Andrew.
Well, I think another great example, again, is the phones, right? Nana and Pop-Pop have phones. They're sitting in the nursing home doing the exact. They have the same access that the 18-year-old now has to gambling, and I mean, people of that age, they're not as up to date with all the technology and everything. Start clicking buttons. Oh, you win! Everybody loves to see you win. Pop up on your screen. Everybody loves to see that. Man. And if you're at the end of your life and all you got a couple $100,000 in the bank, and that, like you said, that's everyone's inheritance. That can go real quick with these prop bets, and it's crazy. It is such an insane world that we live in.
Well, you got some sexy chick in an ad, or you got some professional former Super Bowl coach, or the Manning brothers. Right. These are very legitimate entities, right? And then they got these sleazy looking women in sexy dress clothes. Oh, come to my casino, or come to my. So you got an old lonely guy sitting in a senior care. Well, let me check this out.
Yeah,
look pretty. The girl looked pretty good, and he's bored. So he goes in, and then before you know it, they just drain them for $100,000. I mean, the shit is happening all over the country. And with the blessing, and here's what's sick, with the blessing of the NCAA, with the blessing of the NFL, with the blessing of the NBA, with the blessing of the NHL, and the blessing of Major League Baseball. And that's not what they've been established for. What they've been established for is to be a pillar in our community, to be an athlete and reach that pinnacle that you were a professional athlete. Man, that was the American dream. Do you understand? That was what we all, when we started playing Pop Warner Sports, when we started doing these things, that was our dream, man, to make it up there. And everything going there was always pure, was always about team. Together, everybody accomplishes more, about being straight with each other, about working hard, about being loyal to your team that you were playing for, or the community you were playing for. That is going down the drain for the almighty dollar. And let me warn you all, in closing, let me warn you all, I read you that 10 Commandment, okay? The 10 Commandments are real. God is real, okay? Worship the almighty God, not your almighty football team or a professional sports team or college team, because as you see, it is so corrupt and so evil that you don't want to get sucked into that and be part of that, man. If you got the money, go and donate it to your church or go donate it to a food bank.
Absolutely. And remember, these are the people that everybody looks up to. These are the role models, and now look how they're just entangled in all of this chaos and money and greed and everything. So anyway, great show today. I think we hit on a lot of topics. It was a heavy week in sports for everything that's going on. I want to thank everyone for listening and checking us out. Again, you can follow us on Spotify, YouTube, any social media channels. Find us out, and hope you have a great day.